What's going on, guys? So today we're going to be talking about a video that someone sent me. I'm going to show you this video in just a second. This was sent to me by Kevin A on Instagram. So Kevin, first of all, awesome. I really appreciate it. I mean, this is something new to me. I haven't seen something quite like this before. Basically, this person has a hold on one second. Let me pause this. So this person has a Gerber Paraframe, which you guys know. Well, most of you have that knife, right? That's like just such a go-to knife. It was available at Walmart. It still is available at Walmart. It was just super affordable, very popular all the way through the 90s till now, right? Even when we have these holiday sales, we almost always see some kind of a Gerber holiday pack with like 2 or 3 of these guys or other knives mixed in with the Paraframe. So it's like one of their biggest sellers, I guess. And we're talking about like a $10 knife, maybe less. So Kevin sent me this video. This is a video from First Class Amateur. Alright, so I have to give credit, of course. First Class Amateur posted this, I believe, on Instagram. It says, I've had this knife for years and years. Hashtag awesome for sale. Hashtag knife, hashtag EDC, hashtag hack, and hashtag dad. Alright, so let me just play this video for you, then we'll talk. Alright, so here it is.
I've used my pocket knife. I hold it like this in my palm. Okay. There we go. The spacing is just right, so you can use it to open the can of paint. Yes, I have used it to tighten or loosen screws. If I don't want a door closing on me, I use it as a doorstop. This one I don't recommend. I used to do this at the beach all the time. I would take my knife and then another piece of wood, and I would just cut it. Anyhow, what ended up happening is my detent broke. Right here, you can see I've even welded it back together. But that's the only repair I've had to do on this knife.
Now, he says detent, but I believe he meant the actual lock bar, because it's a frame lock. I think that's what he's saying, is that, you know, he's batoning, which we know what batoning is. And the the pressure broke the lock right off the knife, which is not surprising, but he actually welded it back on. Now, that talk about value. Right?
But it's worked for years to do kindling at the beach. If I'm carrying something with a sharp edge or a thin handle, I'll just use my knife as another handle. If I need to cut a zip tie, I'll open my knife just partially. I'll place it right here into that detent and then clip it shut. I've used it plenty of times to hang pictures. For this one, you want to use this inside edge right here.
I actually like this one. I've never seen this before for opening a bottle. It works. If you got a Paraframe, go for it.
I once locked myself out of my car and I needed to bend a coat hanger to get my keys out. So I just use the edge of the knife and I roll it into the shape that I need. This is everyone's favorite. Okay, take your knife and you'll place it right at the very edge of the can. But once you're at your edge, you just give a little tap with your hand. There we go. You see we're inside the can? Okay, now you just cut around the edge. Now keep in mind, I've had this knife for years and years. I don't sharpen it. I just leave a dull edge on it. And it's lasted me a long, long time. I've probably had it almost 20 years, actually. Top 10 ways I use.
First of all, I wish I still had a Paraframe to like literally show you to whip out for this video, but I don't. I've had several in my lifetime. They never last long for me. This was many, many years ago. And by the way, when I was younger, like before I moved to Pennsylvania, when I did the transition from New Jersey to Pennsylvania, I don't remember exactly how old I was. I was a teenager, I believe. But I EDC'd a large Gerber Paraframe. I remember specifically and vividly carrying that knife. I remember my parents were at like, you know, a realtor's office. I was bored. I was outside hanging out with my sister, who's, you know, a lot younger than me. And I remember taking my knife out specifically because it was fall and we were picking up acorns and stuff. I was trying to keep my sister busy. And I was popping the tops off with the knife of the acorns because at the time, that's when I kind of got into some of the wilderness survival stuff and living off the land type, you know, survival, primitive survival. And that's when I saw a video on like using an acorn whistle, right? So you take the cap of an acorn and you put it in your fingers and you can use it like a whistle. I very vividly remember that with the Paraframe. It's such an interesting visual memory. I don't know why that stuck, but that always stuck. So anyway, I was a fan of it. It's just the frame is just not good. I mean, the actual blade steel is not very good, especially in today's standards. I mean, people expect at least something that holds like an okay edge. I mean, that thing just does not hold an edge. Also very fascinating in that video is he openly says that, you know, it's not sharp. It's had a dull edge for years, but he carries it and uses it as a multi-tool. I just thought it was so fascinating. There really are so many ways to use a knife without actually cutting things. Now, some people would call that abuse. I mean, a knife is a tool to cut stuff, so anything you're doing that's not cutting is abuse. You know, granted, he did break his knife completely and re-welded it. But, you know, good for him. Honestly, good for him. I think that's awesome. I'm very curious if he carries another knife literally to cut stuff, because it'd be a little embarrassing if you have a knife and you can't cut things easily. I would imagine even with a dull edge, as you saw in his video, you could still rip open, you know, a cardboard box with it. You could still do rudimentary cutting things even with a dull edge, because you still have a thin edge, albeit dull. It's thin enough to physically force it through medium, right? So I'm sure he could still open certain things with it. He's not going to zip open a piece of mail without tearing it to pieces. You know, but like I said, a cardboard box or something, you can absolutely still use something like that that's dull to actually cut stuff. But I am curious if he actually carries a sharp knife in addition to that. But he took a knife, a cheap knife, and he turned it into a multi-tool. And he's used it for, as you saw with examples, dozens of different things over many, many years. I thought that was really fascinating and worth passing on to you guys, especially since you carry, a lot of you do, at least own, I don't know, carry, but a lot of you own that exact knife. So some interesting different ideas on how to use it, and or different ideas on how to use your beaters. Right? The bottle opening thing I never saw before. I have seen the zip tie cutter. I don't know when you need to cut a zip tie without taking it off of something. Like, I don't necessarily trim my zip ties. Now, when you do put it on something, you have that tail. That makes sense to cut off the extra tail. But I like an actual multi-tool, because when I cut the tail off close to the box where it locks, I like to take a file and just file the edges, because those can be quite sharp. If you've ever run into that situation where you cut yourself grazing on a cut zip tie that's attached to something, I mean, I've been there a couple times, so I've learned to do that and kind of, you know, round that off a little bit. But yeah, I mean, they're just interesting little tidbits. You know what I mean? I mean, batoning with a folder, obviously that's not a good idea. If you break your lock bar off of your Gerber, you're probably not going to weld it back on like he did. But they're, you know, cheap enough where you could just replace it, I guess. But anyway, that's pretty much it. I just wanted to share this video. I appreciate Kevin for sending it my way. I thought it was super fascinating. I wanted more people, you guys, to be able to see that. So there you go. Thanks for watching. Let me know if you happen to EDC your Paraframe or keep in your vehicle, or if you have one where it's in your junk drawer, your toolbox, just thrown in there when you just need to kind of like beat something open. I do like using the frame for opening a can. I don't think I've seen that before either. So definitely give credit where it's due. That's it. Like, if you have a knife on you and you really need to use that knife to open a can, you don't have to use your blade, right? It just depends on the style of knife, of course. But that was an interesting way to use leverage and pry a paint can lid open without using the blade. So fascinating stuff. Anyway, that's all. Thanks for watching. Hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I'll see you tomorrow with a brand new video. Take care.